What's up guys? I'm Meenakshikaushal and welcome back to the series on Python. In this series, we'll be learning about data type. More specifically, we'll learn about textual data and numbers, and we'll also learn how to store these data so that we can use them later in our program. So let's get started. If you haven't watched my previous video from this series, I highly recommend you to watch that first. On my screen, I have program from the last video. I will go ahead and run it first. As you can see, Hello World is printed. This program is using the print function to print whatever is in between the parentheses. In this case, Hello World is a string. A string is a sequence of characters, either one or many, and is always wrapped inside quotation marks. Now let me print another string. This time, I will use double quotes instead of single quotes. So I will say, print Python 3 is awesome. You can see both Hello World and Python 3 is awesome are printed. So now you can use either single quotes or double quotes for the string. They are basically the same. However, you cannot do something like this. So I will change this to single quote. And when I press run, this time, Python shows me an error. You cannot mix and match single and double quotes. Another data type that is heavily used in Python is numeric data. There are two types of numeric data, integers and floats. The basic difference between the integers and floats is integers are the whole numbers, whereas floats are the decimal numbers. You can use print function to print integers and floats as well. Let me give you a quick example. So I will remove this old code and I will say print 10 and I will also print 44.5. And when you run the code, the integer 10 and floating number 44.5 are printed. One thing is to remember that if you use number with a quotation mark, so technically it's a string in Python. So if I surround 10 with quotes, it's a string, not an integer. So till now, we have learned about numeric data and strings and how to print them. But in real world scenario, we may need to store and use this data in our program and not to just print them. In order to store data and use them later in a program, we use something called variables. But before explaining more about the variables, let me give you an example. So I'll say city is equals to London. Here I've created the variable city and this variable stores a string data London. To store the data in variable, we are using the equals operator. Now instead of printing the string directly, I'll print the city variable and see what we will get. So I'll say print city. And this time when I'll press run, then London is printed on the screen again. This is because the city variable stores the string data London. Now let me modify this program. Instead of city, I'll write city inside the quotation marks and see what we will get. So I'll say city, and this time when I'll press run, then instead of London, string city is printed. You can also change the data of a variable. This time I'm changing London to New York. So I'll say city is equals to New York. And this time when I'll press run, you will see both London and New York are printed on the screen. Let's try to understand what's happening here. In line 1, city holds the string London. In line 2, when I say print city, then since the current value of city is London, that's what gets printed. On line 4, I'll change the value of variable city to New York. On line 5, when I print city, then since the current value of city is New York, that's what got printed on the screen. As you can see, we can change the value of variables. That is why they are called variables. I hope that makes sense. It is also possible to assign a value of one variable to another. Let me give you an example. So I'll remove this code and I'll add another variable city2 is equals to New York. Now try something different. I'll write city is equals to city 2, and when I'll print city this time and I'll press run, it will print New York, not London. This is because we are replacing the value of a city to New York. We can also assign numeric data to the variables in the similar way we assign string to the variables. Let's take a look at it. So I'll remove this code and I'll write my underscore age is equals to 25. So I'll write print my underscore age. Now let me create another variable called pi. Pi is equals to 3.14 and let me print pi. And this time when I'll press run, it will print 25 and 3.14 on the screen. If we need to print more than one variable and data in a single print statement, we can separate them by using commas. Let's take an example. So I can say print my age is, comma, my underscore age. So here my age is a string and my underscore age is a variable which holds the value 25. Here we are writing string and variable my underscore age together separated by a comma. So when I'll press the run button, it will print my age is 25 on the output screen. Let's modify this program further. I will write print I am, comma, my underscore age, comma, years old, and I can vote, which means I can print multiple statements together separated by comma in one print statement. And when I press the run button, it will print I am 25 years old and I can vote on the output screen. At this point, we have discussed all the basic points of variables. Before ending this video, I would like to discuss how to choose a good variable name. If you have noticed, in our program, I have used simple and descriptive variable name. For example, city, my underscore age. We can also give variable name C instead of city. It will work fine. However, it is difficult to understand what does C mean just by looking at the code. By the way, there are some rules you need to know while creating a variable name. Rule number 1, you cannot create a variable name by space in between. You cannot start a variable name with a number. You cannot use keywords as a variable name, as these keywords have a special meaning in Python. We'll be learning more about these keywords in our later videos. That's it for this video. I hope you have learned something. If you're just watching this video without writing the code, I highly recommend you to write the code on your own. The only way to be a good programmer is by writing the code. See you in the next video. Thanks for your time.